Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's How Tuesday webinar. My name is Karl Vilacoba, and I'm the Communications Director and Ocean Data Manager for Monmouth University's Urban Coast Institute, which is located about a mile from the beach in West Long Branch, New Jersey. And I'm the Project Manager for the Mid-Atlantic Ocean Data Portal. Today's webinar will be covering two free apps that we should all have on our phones as we're at the beach, on our boats, or out in the field this summer. The portal's mobile app, and MyCoast. Marco, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Council on the Ocean, recently released version 2 of the portal's mobile app in the Apple App Store and Google Play. Among the upgrades in the latest version are a redesigned viewer with a more spacious screen, the ability to tap your screen for pop-ups with more information about maps, access to data types that weren't previously supported, and improved search capabilities that make it easier to find what you need. We'll start our webinar with a tutorial by Ava Taylor and Anjali Narang, who are both highly talented software developers and recent graduates of Monmouth University's Department of Computer Science and Software Engineering. Next, we'll take a tour of MyCoast, a mobile and desktop app which allows users to upload photos and data to document tides, changing shorelines, flooding, and other categories prioritized in individual state versions of the app. Marco recently introduced new data collection categories for users in the Mid-Atlantic on what, where, when, and how people are enjoying coastal areas and what wildlife they're encountering out there. The Boat US Foundation is also developing a national database to track abandoned and derelict vessels, or ADVs, using MyCoast as a platform for the public and organizations to report them. This is helping identify problem areas and their scope, track prevention and removal efforts, and more. Devon Haines of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's Bureau of Climate Resilience Planning will provide a demo of MyCoast's capabilities. And after the presentations, we'll open the session up to a Q&A with our presenters. You can type your questions into the chat at any time, or during the Q&A, you'll have a chance to raise your hand, unmute, and ask them verbally. Just a note that this webinar is being recorded for the benefit of those who couldn't make it today, and it will be posted on the portal either by the end of the day or sometime early tomorrow. And with all that said now, take it away, Ava and Anjali.
Hi everyone, I'm Ava and this is Anjali here.
Hello.
So just to start, we're going to give some backgrounds to the how the portal app was created. So in 2022 to 2023, I begun this as a student research project when I went to Monmouth University. And we built a very basic mobile-friendly version of the Marco portal. Then May 2023, we went to New York City and did some tabling at the Marco Ocean Forum. June 2024, Marco then funded the project to productize the app. And we began in December of 2024 publishing those apps to the App Store and the Google Play Store. December of 2025, version 2 was funded by Marco, and we added some new features and functions to the app. May of 2026, version 2 was shown at the Marco Ocean Forum in Virginia Beach. Also, May of 2026, version 2 of the iPhone and Android mobile apps were published to the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. June of 2026, we were able to table at Capitol Hill Ocean Week and show our new version 2 there. And then July and August of 2026, we are working on version 2.5 with some new cool features to come.
So in version 2, which is the version available in the store currently, you have access to thousands of map layers, everything that you can access on the web portal. You can search, favorite, activate, show and hide, rearrange, and view individual layers. And as Karl mentioned, you can now tap at any location on the map to get information about those specific layers. And today Ava will be showing a sneak peek of version 2.5, which includes a new feature where you can tag locations and record data at those specific locations. So you can drop a pin at any location and record notes, photos, videos, audio, and a snapshot of the map you're currently looking at, and associate that with the layers on your map. And this is all stored locally in your phone, so you can review and edit it later on. And then you can also view a map of all your tagged locations in order to view those notes later.
Great, so now we'll go into a demonstration. We have a side-by-side here of the Android app and the iPhone app. If you have Android devices, look at the left screen. If you have an iPhone, look at the right screen.
Okay, so the app opens to your main map, but we're going to show the layers tab first. So here we have a list of all your themes. And of course, you can enter a theme to view data pertaining to that specific theme. So we're going to look at habitat today. So in the top right corner, you have these two buttons where you can drop down everything, just because there's a lot of nesting of data. So if you want to just scroll through everything, you can drop that down. And you can also collapse everything. And now we're going to preview one specific layer. So we'll look at this one here. You can see you have things like a scale bar at the bottom, and if you rotate your screen, a compass shows up. On the left-hand side, we have all these buttons. So on the iOS version, you can tap to zoom to your location, which is enabled on the right side if you look there. And then on both versions, you can change your base map. So right now we have oceans enabled. You can do like this one, imagery. It will stay on oceans for now. You can favorite a layer by pressing this little heart button here, and you can activate it, which adds it to your main map, by pressing the plus button. You can open your legend by pressing the key, and everything that pops up is draggable because it's such a small screen, so you might want to move things out of the way. You can also view info specific to this layer if you press the little I button, so you can see the description, metadata, and the source of the layer. You can change the opacity of each layer, both in the preview and the main map. So if I turn that up to 1, you can see it's much brighter. And if you wanted, you could make the opacity lower to see the base map under it. And now that new feature we were talking about is, we call it like tap mode. So if you press this button with the finger on the bottom, you now have that enabled, and you can tap on a layer to view information at that specific spot. So wherever that pin is landing, you're seeing all information available where that pin is. And then you can disable that mode by pressing the button again. Now if we go navigate back out to the theme, you can see we have a search bar here at the top. So you can search habitat, for example. A lot of things come up there because we're in the habitat theme. But now you only see things that have the word habitat. You can also, on iOS, you swipe to bring up the favorite and activate buttons, and on Android, on the left, they're exposed. So you can just favorite or activate a layer from here, and it'll show up in those lists. And now if we go back to all the themes, you can search across every single theme. So before we were only searching in the habitat theme, but now You can see we have stuff in conservation, fishing, and it gives you the path under the layer name. So if you want to go find that later, it makes it easy to see where that specifically is. And now Ava will show how the map screen works.
So if we go back to our main map, we'll see that this has a display of all layers that we currently have in our actives layer list. So on the left, you'll see a control panel has a bunch of buttons, similar to what we just saw in our preview screen. So something like the zoomed user location, the base maps button, the legends button are all just like what we saw in that preview, but now just for multiple layers. We also have this layers box that we open up, and now this will show a list of all of the layers that we currently have viewable in our map. The order of these layers corresponds to the way that you're viewing them on the map. So the topmost layer in the list is the topmost layer on the map. We can also drag this box around, similar to what we just saw with Anjali, draggable, and it saves the location of where you last left it. In here, we can also change the opacity. So another feature that we saw in the other map. And we have that little info tab button here where we can see description, metadata, and source for each specific layer. The I button lets you show and hide specific layers without deleting them from the map. So if we only wanted to view one or two layers, we could just do the show and hide, but not have to go back in and reactivate them. And then you can also change the order of which they're displayed directly from here by pressing and holding on the iOS version. And on the Android version, there's those little grip icons that you can drag. And then you can just drag and drop wherever, and then it'll reflect that order on the map. We can also delete layers from here. iPhone version, you would just swipe to delete. Android version, you use that little edit button and then tap the trash can icon. We now also support slider layers. So if you'll see, we have this one layer here, black sea bass, that has this little slider icon next to it. That means it's a slider layer. If you click on a slider, you'll get this option to change the slider selections. So here, if we want to look at a specific decade, we can change that and it will immediately reflect the data on the map. This also gives us the option to change the season, and we can choose highest biomass, high biomass, etc. And then that is getting directly changed there. And we can go back and then it'll keep our selection saved. And then lastly, we do have this option to tap this little button in the top left of our little layers box to open our active layers list in a larger view for easier reordering if you have, maybe 10 plus layers activated. And then simply just swipe it down. So we also talked about this tap feature in our preview. If we activate the tap mode, now that we have multiple layers activated, you'll get multiple different layer information back. So instead, before we were just seeing one layer's information, now we get a whole list from everything below that point where we tapped. And you can tap around and it'll change the information that you're viewing. And then we also have a share link. If you tap the share button, I can't because I'm screen sharing, but if you tap the share link, it will get you a link of exactly what you're viewing on your map right now. And then you can send that link via email, text, whatever the case may be, and all of the layer information that you have will be saved, such as opacity, layer order, etc.
All right, so now we'll enter the settings, which on Android is on the top right, on iOS is on the bottom right. So on Android, you can see there's a default scale option, and on iOS, you open the map settings dropdown to see that. Um, this makes it so that when you open the map, you might want to be more zoomed in or more zoomed out, and you can choose that based on your preference. You can also turn your location on or off, and that'll show the little blue location indicator on your map if you have it on. You also saw the scale bar earlier in at the bottom of the map in the center. You can turn that off if you'd like. Um, you can also open the active and favorite layers from here. So these are just the larger screens we talked about where it's easier to reorder and deactivate things. Um, and in the favorites and active, you can also tap to preview like you can from the search. Um, you can bookmark these two pages. So if you're someone who uses favorites a lot, for example, you can bookmark that and then go out and see that's now on your bottom bar. So it's easier to access, but that's pretty much up to you. You can also just access it through the settings. Um, and we have a tutorial popping up the first time you open the app, but you can view it again through the settings, and it gives you a lot of the information we're giving you now, as to how to use the app on each screen. Yeah, so now Ava will show a quick demo of what's going to be in version 2.5 on the right side.
Okay, so this is the tagging feature. It's not yet in the App Store, but will be soon. So basically, if you press and hold on your screen, you'll be able to drop this pin, and you have this little magnifying glass to put it at a precise location. So if I want to put it here, drop the pin, and then once a pin is dropped, you'll see that little tag icon will pop up right below your tap button. You can select the tag icon, and then you're able to add a new tag. So we could title this. You can add a note about what you're viewing. And then you can add specific attachments as well. So if you want to take a photo, snap a photo, use that. You can do multiples. You can record a video, use that. And then you can also record audio if you don't want to type out your notes. And then you can save that. So once we've captured all of our media, you now also have the option to associate specific layers with that. So you can see on the map, we got this little snapshot of what we were viewing at the time when we dropped the pin. But if for some reason, maybe we were only viewing something about the soft corals, we could just deselect every other layer and only associate that layer with it, just to know that our note is about something very specific. And then you have the ability to save that. And then you can hit the cancel tagging button at the top so you're out of that pin dropping mode. And then as you saw in settings, there was this little tags section. And now we'll see a list of every tag that we've dropped. And then you can click and view from there and see the notes that you made. Or you can go back to your tags list and view a list of all of the notes that you made. And then you have a specific filtering option. So if we wanted to see something was related to fish, we can search that term. And if it's within that note, we'll be able to view that specific note. You can go back, see everything that was recorded. You see the snapshot. You see which layers were associated with it, and everything can be edited from here. So if I wanted to edit, and maybe I want to select a photo and delete it, cannot be undone, delete. I can add another video, whatever the case may be. Everything can be edited from here. And then we go back and we save, and then that's all reflected now when we go back in. We see our edit, we see that the attachments were changed, and everything is shown right here. And yeah, so that's a little sneak peek of our little tagging feature that will hopefully be out soon. Gives users the option, if you're out in the field, if you see something and you want to make a note of it, it's saved locally for your device, so no one else can see these notes. It's just for personal use. Anything cool you might want to note, or if you're collecting data, it's a really good tool for that. And then so here we have QR codes that you guys are more than welcome to scan. Left is App Store, right is Google Play, or feel free to just search Marco Ocean Data in the app stores, and you can download the app.
Yep.
And then I'll give this 1 second if anyone needs to scan. All right. And we will let Devon take it away.
Yep.
All right. Great job, guys. And while Devon sets up, just a quick shout out to Amanda Archer, who I saw on the line. She is from the Jacques Cousteau National Estuarine Research Reserve, tongue-tied, and also has a great deal of expertise with MyCoast. But Devon, take it away.
All right, thank you, Carl. So good afternoon, everyone. I am also going to drop a link in the chat to MyCoast. That is our desktop version. But today I'm going to be focusing on, oh, sorry, I should probably say, I'm with New Jersey's Department of Environmental Protection. I'm an environmental specialist with them, and I am also project manager for MyCoast New Jersey. As Carl was saying, Amanda Archer is on this call with us. I wanted to give a huge shout out to JC Neer. She helps me out tremendously with this project. Couldn't do it without her. So if you have any questions, Amanda can help me out in the chat with answering any of them if you have them. So, as Ava and Anjali had their QR codes, here are some QR codes for MyCoast. Instead of talking about MyCoast, New Jersey specifically today, I'm going to talk about the Mid-Atlantic tools and the Abandoned and Derelict Vessel National Tool. So when you scan these QR codes, it's going to take you to a MyCoast app in general, and then when you download it, it's going to open it with your state tools, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So I'm just going to jump to the next one. This is also available on a desktop version, which I shared in the chat. They both have their pros and cons on what you want to do, what's the best way to use them, with what tools are available. So MyCoast New Jersey altogether is a photo documentation platform that takes your location, weather, tide data that's connected with the photo, and together when you submit it onto MyCoast, it creates a report. And we encourage people to get out in their state and take different photos depending on what your state tools are, and help stakeholders like government agencies, business owners, NGOs, things like that, help make informed decisions. So MyCoast New Jersey specifically started in probably 2020, 2021. But if you go on, you may see that we have some reports from 2015, 2012. We encourage our users to submit past reports. So you are able to go back and submit a report from whenever you may have experienced flooding or any other coastal hazard onto your state page. We encourage our users to submit past reports to help us compare what happened previously to what's happening now. So for MyCoast New Jersey specifically, we kind of look at it as a triangular approach. So DEP, JC Neer, Rutgers, we work with Blue Urchin, the company who organizes the website, MyCoast, and we design our state-specific tools, and then we help promote it and get it out to community members or other stakeholders, like I was saying, government agencies, NGOs, business owners, to collect those reports and use those reports and the data for their planning purposes and informed decisions. So MyCoast tools, as I was saying, uh, each coastal state has the ability to have a MyCoast app. So New Jersey, we have one. It is a paid subscription, so it's an annual subscription fee that we pay for. It's free to all users to use and to download the data. So if you are from another coastal state, you may not have state-specific tools, but you may have access to either the Mid-Atlantic tools or the national tool. So this was a little breakdown that I kind of made. In New Jersey, you'll see that we have our state-specific. We also have access to the Marco tools and then the national database. Massachusetts, they have their own tools. Obviously, they won't have access to the Mid-Atlantic states, but they do have access to the national database. And if you're part of a state that does not have any tools, you will still have access to the national database. This is what it's going to look like when you go on your phone. I took a few different examples, but these are all the tools that'll be available to you, depending on where you're located. And these will automatically pop up when you're on your phone. For example, if I am traveling to another state for a conference and I see I'm in Virginia and I come across some wildlife, I can still report in Virginia. Even if I take a picture while I'm there and I go home, I do have the ability to do that drop down and make a report in the state at a future time. So a little bit about the tools I'm talking about today. So the Marco tools, as Karl was saying, we have a wildlife tool and a recreation tool. These help us better understand what wildlife is out there in our Mid-Atlantic states and help us with future planning, especially the spatial planning that Marco's working on. And then the national tool is an abandoned and derelict vessel database. So that is run through Boat US Foundation. That is funded through a NOAA Marine Debris Program. And that is tracking all of the abandoned derelict vessels across the US and territories. So it's not automatically tracking these vessels to put up for removal. We're just tracking where they are so we can use it for future planning purposes. So here's an example of the Marco Wildlife tool. So as you can, when you first go on, you'll see an overall map that's going to have some pins with the wildlife logo. And that's where you can see where these reports are made. Down here in the bottom left, this is what it's going to look like when you make a report. This is on the desktop version. The mobile version is very similar, obviously just on a smaller scale. So you can select your photo. You will only be able to post one photo. And when you select your photo, the date and the time and location should be automatically updated. It could be a little different for each state, but if I would just double check what it comes up as and correct it if you need to. And then with each tool, there might be a set of questions that the state or organization has set up with that report. So for the wildlife tool, it gives you the option to add in what animal you think it might be, and that just helps filter the different types of wildlife that we're coming across in the Mid-Atlantic states. And then over to the right, you can see here, this is what a report would look like. So on the mobile version, I think it's very easy to submit a report. You can go and see all the resources on the mobile app. If you're looking for reports and you want to go through some reports, I think it is a little bit better to go through on the desktop version. You can do it on the mobile desktop layout. I think it's just a little trickier to see visually. But this is what your report is going to look like. So as I was saying, it collects your weather, tidal, and location data. So it uses the closest NOAA tide gauge to show the predicted tides and the observed tides during the report time. And then the little yellow pin on the tide chart is where the tide was during that report time. So as you can see, it was a little higher than the predicted tide, and we're getting close to high tide. You can also see your weather data, so it gives you various weather information, and then down below it does give you a closer up image of that map of where this photo was taken. And then very similarly, this is the Marco recreation tool. So we would like to hear what people are doing out in our Mid-Atlantic states to help us with planning. Again, here's the section where you can add your photo, and then it takes your photo and time, or your date and your time information. And again, the other set of questions that you can answer. Again, these aren't required to answer, but it does help with our reporting purposes. So you can mark off what you're doing, and then why you chose this site. It helps us just see what people are using these areas for. And again, here is a report if you were to pull it up, and you have all of your information. And as I was saying before too, all data and reports are free for you to download. So you can download it here. There's other ways on the desktop version too to get to the download section, and everything is exported as an Excel file. And then here is the Federal Boat US tool. So when you first go on, you're going to see the full state map where you can see all the different abandoned vessels that have been reported. You can zoom in and see different vessels within your state. You can click on each of these pins and it'll pull up a little summary of what the report is, and you can open the report into the full view, which you see over here on the right again. Very similar data. And then when you're submitting your report, you can put in as much information as you can about the vessel that you're reporting on. If you don't have the answers, like you may not know what material the boat is made out of, you don't have to answer it, but you do have the ability to if you're able to. And then this is a lot of words, so don't be overwhelmed. But I just wanted to kind of lay out all the tools that are available on MyCoast and give a shout out to all the projects that MyCoast hosts. So there's 11 projects across the US. Like I was saying, there's the national tool and the Mid-Atlantic tool. And then I did lay out all the tools available for each state. Some states have similar tools. Others may sound very similar, but there may be little differences between each state. The really amazing part about MyCoast is your state has the ability to make any tool what you want it to be. So, for example, the flood alert and the flood watch, there could be little differences between Virginia and New York where they wanted to collect a little bit different information. So they made it their own, and they made it their own tool. So very unique website and web database to really collect what your state needs. And then this is different ways that we have found you can use some MyCoast data and photos, so you can use it in real-time awareness, planning, project siting, and design. We've heard that some people use it in permit review or grant proposals, and then definitely model calibration and ground truthing. And then what can you do to take part? So you can definitely download the app or visit it on the desktop version. There is the ability to sign up for high water alerts or push notifications depending on your state. So you can get notified if there's a flash flood coming, how to stay safe. You can post your photos and stories to MyCoast, depending on what is available to your state or where you're visiting. We highly encourage you to share anything you come across on social media, and then please feel free to attend community events and become an amplifier, share out this tool with us. And then if your state does not have MyCoast, or if you're very new to MyCoast, please feel free to look into what's available to your state and what you guys can do. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Amanda can help me out, or my email's there if you think of anything later.
All right. That was awesome, Devin. I learned quite a bit. And we will open this up to questions and answers now. And anyone who has a question, feel free to either drop it in the chat or just raise your hand and you can unmute. I'll call on you as they come. And while you're thinking of that, I will just read aloud one comment from Dr. Janet Reamer from Marco, who just noted for anyone out there who might be interested that uh, the Mid-Atlantic Wildlife and Recreation Report media package is available, and she has her email in the chat. This document includes social media and newsletter language, as well as logo files that you can use while promoting the Marco sponsored reports. So definitely get a hold of her if you can do that and help us get the word out on this. John, thank you for joining. Good to see you. And why don't you lead off?
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. So thanks. I guess this one, a couple questions, but for Devin. So the on the abandoned derelict vessel, that's fascinating. I'm not a boater, but it's kind of cool that they have this. If I'm out and about and I see such a thing and I open the app and it's already in there, is there any value into like taking a picture and adding that? Like it's still there, or is it like it's in there, it's been mapped and marked, and there's no sense in me adding another picture and another report? Which one is it?
I would definitely encourage you to still make the report, even if it's in there. I do know Boat US, well, actually, Janet, might be able to back me up on this one, but I want to say they review all reports before they go live. So if for some reason they're getting an overload on one specific boat, they may kind of hide some of them on the back end, but they still have that data there for them.
Because I thought I heard you say something about it has nothing to do with actually removing them, it's just mapping them. So I'm like, maybe it's not that valuable to say still here, still nobody's removed it yet, but
It also depends. I mean, they don't have funding set aside for the removal aspect specifically, but it is helping them track them. I know in New Jersey, Stockton University, they're working on a grant to remove some of the abandoned derelict vessels. And they are looking at MyCoast to see where the boats are. So if they're getting multiple reports, I think they would definitely take that into consideration.
okay. And then one other quick one on the New Jersey MyCoast, some of the different ways to apply it or are kind of obvious, but one on that list it said something about rising. I wasn't sure what that was. It didn't seem like it was. There's other tide ones, but what was it called and what's it for?
Sure. So that is Rising Together New Jersey. That was a storytelling social media campaign that we ran. It was 10 years after Superstorm Sandy and 1 year after Ida. A big issue that we do see, especially, well, at least in New Jersey, is people further north or more inland that experience maybe riverine flooding. They don't feel like they're on the coast, and they have trouble finding their fit, I guess, in the title My Coast. But New Jersey is the coast is more than just the shore.
Mhm.
So we wanted a social media campaign to encourage everyone across the state that's experiencing coastal flooding to have a voice and share their story. So it was a place for them to tell any flooding experience that they've had. They could submit a photo, they can submit a video, a song, a written story, whatever they wanted. We just wanted them to have a voice.
Cool.
All right, Amanda, go ahead and take yourself off mute. And
Thanks, Carl. I was just going to answer for the boat US or the derelict vessel question about resubmitting a photo of that same vessel. So I see some folks have answered in the chat already, but I remember I was on a site visit once and I reported a boat that has probably been there for like over 50 years and has not moved. And so I just kind of went through and some of the questions it asks is about safety. So we know with like changing conditions and changing tides, safety concerns could change with that vessel. So that's also something
that the app asks you about. And so submitting that report is more helpful than not.
Thank you for that. Who has other questions related to MyCoast or the portal app? Ava and Anjali, maybe I'll throw one to you. Actually, a quick comment first. For those who have older versions of the portal app, just go. I would encourage you to go into your app store and update it so that you can get all those cool features that you saw demonstrated today. One thing that we didn't quite get into, but was an important part of this process in your design and all that was there are some things that are pretty well mirrored from what you see on the desktop version of the portal. And there's other things where you went in different directions and uh, took a little bit of a different approach to it. And I wondered if you might speak to that and your thinking behind it.
Yeah, we felt like creating a mobile app for a web portal, there's a lot of features on iPhones and Android devices that are very intuitive and specific to those devices. So we kind of took the functionalities of the portal and tried to mirror it in a way that made more sense for an iPhone or an Android. So even you'll see some of the features differ between the Android device and the iPhone, because Android users have, different intuitive, buttons, controls that iPhone users don't. So we tried to keep it really authentic to the device that we were designing for. Um, while also making sure we kept the authenticity of what the portal is supposed to do. So, something like the tagging and notes, that was a cool new feature that we had because we can't really, mirror the My Planner exactly. And we wanted users to be able to have, some sort of way for them to, record their own data or store their own, notes and such. I'm trying to think, is there something else you can think of that was
Yeah, I mean,
changed?
the whole challenge of version 2 as well. I don't know if anyone here had version 1, but it used to like open to the search. Things were kind of cluttered in the map. We tried to make it more so that you're seeing the map like on the full screen, like it's taking up the whole thing. And then we added all these draggable boxes this time around because obviously you have such little real estate on your screen. Um, and we want people to be able to move things out of the way or customize their screen to their own liking. Maybe they have a tablet and they want to line things up, or maybe they want to overlap everything. Whatever makes it easier for people. Obviously, this isn't really a problem on a website because you have a whole laptop screen or desktop screen to view everything at once, but we tried to make it so that you can see the map and all this information at the same time, and then see all your real-time updates when you're reordering, deactivating, hiding and showing, all that. So it was a big challenge to be able to fit everything on one little screen, but I think we made it work, especially in version 2.
It's definitely
Yeah.
cool because it's open discussion between us and the web portal as well for, something we may have done on the mobile app that they've been like, oh, this could be good for the
Yeah.
web portal too. So it's kind of been a cool collaborative effort between,
Yeah,
both of
for
us.
sure.
I'll also throw a question out to our audience here if anyone has any thoughts on this. Are there any features that you would like to see added to either the portal or MyCoast apps? Anything that would make you more likely to use it? And if so, let us know. You can type it in the chat or raise your hand now, or even just email us after this. I think we're all always open to thinking for the future and what could be done next. All right. One last chance for questions. Seeing none, I will call this webinar finished right about now and just thank everybody for joining us today. And as a reminder, I will have a recording of this up on our webinars page and on the Portal news blog, probably by the end of the day or by tomorrow morning at the latest. But thank you again for joining us, and really appreciate our presenters and all of you coming today. Have a great finish to your summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.